Okay. So, great evening, guys. Thank you so very much for joining us again on another exciting Upgrade Mastery just for you. Super excited to be doing this again. This is the last Friday in the month of February, and we are still on our series. By the way, how are you doing? This is Upgrade Mastery just for you. This is particularly for you because on the Upgrade Mastery just for you, we get to do this every Fridays from 7 p.m. through to 8 p.m. and basically get to share our experiences from the week, the learnings we had, the challenges we faced, how we're able to overcome all of them. That's basically what we get to do here. And then we just get to let down our hair and just gist, right? We just get to talk because it's been a long week, right? And then it's also the end of the month of February. How time flies. 2 months done and dusted in the year 2026. How's it been for you so far? How was this week particularly? Now, on the Upgrade Mastery just for you that we do every Fridays, we just get to gist, right? Talk about the week, the challenges we faced, how we're able to overcome them, and what are the things that stood out for us, the lessons we learned, and what we're going to be applying for the new week that we're getting into. So basically, that's what we get to do when we have this conversation. And I'm super excited again to have you join us here. Like I always say, take out a few seconds, share this link with your friends, your families, your loved ones, so that they can be part of the conversation that we are having. So, it's been an amazing week for me so far. Yes, we're doing a lot. And this week was good because we're able to achieve some of the goals that we set out to achieve for the week, right? And it's quite interesting. Yes, we got some feedback that not too pleasant, but we move, right? Life must go on. So, how was your week? What did you do this week? What were the things that stood out for you? What were challenges you faced? How are you able to overcome it for your week, right? So, for my week, quite interesting, quite eventful, quite engaging, and I'm glad that it's over, right? So that I can recalibrate and get ready for coming week and the coming month, right? Because we're into March, and technically it looks like the first quarter of 2026 is almost coming to an end, right? So how's it been for you so far? How's it been for you? How's it been for you? Have you been taking enough time to rest, to recalibrate, look at your goals, look at the things you want to achieve, how you moving the needle in all of those things, which ones are you procrastinating on? Let's look at those things, right? Let's look at the things that you need to do for yourself. And if you do need help, it's okay to reach out and send an email or send a comment that you need help, and the team will reach out to you and we'll find a way to help you in any way that we can, right? So that you too can be able to achieve the goals that you set out for yourself to achieve in the year. Okay, now that being said, we're going to go into our series. This is the period where we are doing a series on Genesis, and we've started this series since the first Friday in January, and the series has been quite eventful. Now, this is episode 9 on that series, Genesis. Now, I don't know where you have joined us from, but I encourage you to go and watch it from the very beginning, from episode 1, right? If you were watching a series, you will start from the very first episode so that I can be able to follow the train of thoughts in the conversation. But if you're here today, that's fine. I'm glad to have you here join us on episode 9. And then you can go back and watch the previous episode you may have missed, right? Because it's better to have you here on episode 9 than not even have you at all. So I'm glad that you're here today for episode 9. Now, on Genesis, the series, we've been taking 5 chapters from the book of Genesis every Friday. And today, we're going to do the same thing. And for every chapter, we pick out 3 amazing lessons to share, right? These 3 lessons are what we feel have stood out for us and want to communicate that with you. And you can also go back and read those chapters and figure out more lessons for yourself. Now, this 3 is just basic, so easy for us to go through the series, right? So we do 5 chapters, 3 lessons per chapter in every episode. So today, we're going to be doing episode 41 to 45. Now, this is episode 9. by the first Friday in March, we'll be doing episode 10, and which is the last in the series. So Friday next week is going to be season finale. So if you have missed any episode, don't miss Friday next week. That's season finale for Genesis, the series. And then we'll move on to something else. I've enjoyed this series so far, from chapter 1 to chapter 40, where we stopped last Friday. I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. It has opened my eyes to a lot of things again in Genesis, and have seen things from a better perspective while I've been taking this series. So I'm super glad, I'm super excited that you're here. And today we're also going to have an amazing time together, right? So we begin episode 9 from Genesis 41, right? So like we always do, we'll read the story and then we will now take the lessons, right? So it's easy for us to follow. So read the whole chapter, then we'll take the lessons, and then we'll move to the next chapter, read the chapter, then we'll take the lesson, and that's how we do it, right? So don't go anywhere. Sit tight. Share the link with your friends, your family, your loved ones, in your group chat, and your status, so that more people get to join live than just watch the replay. And so we can begin the conversation in earnest. So let's begin today from Genesis chapter 41. Okay. Now, two full years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the river Nile. In his dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and began grazing in the marsh grass. Then he saw 7 more cows come up behind them from the Nile, but these were scrawny and thin. These cows stood beside the fat cows on the riverbank. Then the scrawny thin cows ate the 7 healthy cows. At this point in the dream, Pharaoh woke up. But he fell asleep again and had a second dream. This time he saw 7 head of grain, plump, beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were shivered and withered by the east wind. And these 10 heads swallowed up the 7 plump, well-formed heads. Then Pharaoh woke up again and realized it was a dream. The next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dreams. He called for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. When Pharaoh told them his dreams, not one of them could tell him what they meant. Finally, the chief cupbearer spoke up. Today, I have been reminded of my failure, he told Pharaoh. Some time ago, you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night, the chief baker and I each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. There was a young Hebrew man with us in the prison who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he told us what each of our dreams meant. And everything happened just as he had predicted. I was restored to my position as a cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once, and he was quickly brought out of prison. After he shaved and changed his clothes, he went in and stood before Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I've heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. It is beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied. But God can tell you what it means and set you at ease. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream. In my dream, he said, I was standing on the bank of the Nile River, and I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and began grazing in the marsh grass. But then I saw 7 sick-looking cows, scrawny and thin, come up after them. I have never seen such a sorry-looking animals in the land of Egypt. These thin, scrawny cows ate the 7 fat cows. But afterward, you wouldn't have known it, for they were still as thin and scrawny as before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but they were blighted, shriveled, and withered by the east wind. And the shriveled heads swallowed the 7 healthy heads. I told these dreams to the magicians, but no one could tell me what they mean. Joseph responded, Both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he's about to do. The 7 healthy cows and 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. The 17 scrawny cows that came up later and the 17 heads of grain withered by the east wind represent 7 years of famine. This will happen just as I have described it. For God has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he's about to do. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout the land of Egypt. But afterward, there will be 7 years of famine so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land. This famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. As for having 2 similar dreams, it means that these events have been decreed by God and he will soon make them happen. Therefore, Pharaoh should find an intelligent and wise man and put him in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh should appoint supervisors over the land and let them collect 1/5 of all the crops during the 7 years of plenty. Have them gather all the food produced in the good years that are just ahead and bring it to Pharaoh's storehouses. Store it away and guard it so there will be food in the cities. That way there will be enough to eat when the 7 years of famine come to the land of Egypt. Otherwise, this famine will destroy the land. Joseph's suggestions were well received by Pharaoh and his officials. So Pharaoh asked his officials, "Can we find anyone else like this man?" So, obviously filled with the Spirit of God. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has revealed the meaning of the dreams to you, clearly no one is as intelligent or wise as you. You will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. Only I, sitting on my throne, will have a higher rank than yours." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh removed the signet ring from his hand and placed it in Joseph's finger. He dressed him in fine linen clothing and hung a gold chain around his neck. Then he had Joseph ride in the chariot reserved for his second in command. And wherever Joseph went, the command was shouted, "Kneel down." So Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all Egypt. And Pharaoh said to him, "I am Pharaoh, but no one will lift a hand or foot in the entire land without your approval." Then Pharaoh gave Joseph a new name, Zaphet-Nath-Paneah. He also gave him a wife who was Asenath. She was the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On. So Joseph took charge of the entire land of Egypt. He was 30 years old when he began serving in the court of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And then Joseph left Pharaoh's presence. He inspected the entire land of Egypt. As predicted, for 7 years the land produced bumper crops. During those years, Joseph gathered all the crops grown in Egypt and stored the grain from the surrounding fields in the cities. He piled up huge amounts of grain like sand on the seashore. Finally, he stopped keeping record because there was so much to measure. During this time, before the first of the famine years, 2 sons were born to Joseph and his wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On. Joseph named his older son Manasseh, for he said, "God has made me forget all my troubles and everyone in my father's family." Joseph named his second son Ephraim, for he said, "God has made me fruitful in this land of my grief." At last, the 7 years of bumper crops throughout the land of Egypt came to an end. Then the 7 years of famine began. And just as Joseph had predicted, the famine also struck all the surrounding countries. But throughout Egypt, there was plenty of food. Eventually, however, the famine spread throughout the land of Egypt as well. And when the people cried out to Pharaoh for food, he told them, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." So with severe famine everywhere, Joseph opened up the storehouses and distributed grain to the Egyptians. But the famine was severe throughout all the land of Egypt. And people from all around came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe throughout the world. Okay, so that's it. That's chapter 41. And there are 3 important lessons to learn from chapter 41 that we're going to talk about today. So we just read the story where Joseph was forgotten. 2 years had passed. The Pharaoh had a dream. Now he saw what he saw in the dream. None of the magicians could interpret the dream. And then the butler remembered Joseph. And then Joseph was brought to Pharaoh, interpreted the dream. Pharaoh put him in charge. And then the 7 years of plenty started. And after that, the 7 years of famine also started. And then people started to come to buy food from Joseph. Now, 3 lessons to learn from chapter 41. Very interesting lessons, right? It may not be lessons that stood out for you, but these are lessons that stood out for me, and I want to share them with you. Number 1, God's timing is the best. Or like they say in local parlance, God's timing is the best, right? God's timing is always the best. Now, if you look at Joseph's story, when the butler was being restored back to his position, Joseph specifically asked him, when you get out there, remember me. Put a word in for me to Pharaoh. But the butler forgot about Joseph, and 2 years passed until Pharaoh had a dream. Now, he could have felt like, oh, Joseph's time has passed. It looks like help is not going to come from anywhere. But you see, God's time is the best. And I always say this every time, that God is never early, God is never late, God is always on time. And by that, God will show up when he shows up and always at the right time. So Joseph felt 2 years had passed, but God had a plan. And when that plan was due for its time, Pharaoh had a dream. And in a way that all the Egyptians, all the magicians in Egypt could not interpret the dream except Joseph. So the first lesson to learn for chapter 41 is that God's timing is the best. So you can trust God's timing for your life. That may look like, oh, you're just behind, you're not making progress, you are just stuck. But trust God's timing. And like I told you, God is never late. God is never early. God is always on time. So you can trust God's time. And God's timing is the best. As at the time when Pharaoh had a dream, nobody could interpret the dream. Only Joseph could interpret the dream, and then they sent for Joseph. So God literally orchestrated a problem that only Joseph had the solution. Talk about right timing. No timing can be perfect than that. Are you getting this? Second lesson to learn from chapter 41 is this. Have a track record. Have a track record. It is what will make you the needed and not the needy. You see, all the Egyptian magicians could not interpret Pharaoh's dream. But then the butler came and said, I remember a Hebrew slave in the prison when you sent us to prison. He interpreted our dreams and it came to pass exactly how he interpreted it. That is track record. So whatever you're doing, always have a track record. It is that track record that will make people look for you as the needed, not the needy. Joseph did not appear to Pharaoh as the needy. What he was thinking before when he was telling the butler to tell Pharaoh about it, he was going to appear as the needy. Tell Pharaoh I'm justly put here in prison. Tell Pharaoh that he should help me so I can get out of here. He was appearing as the needy. But with the way God's timing was for Joseph, Joseph was going to appear before Pharaoh as the needed. Are you getting this? So the second lesson to learn here is have a track record that will make you the needed. Nobody, no Egyptian, no magician could tell Pharaoh the meaning of his dream except Joseph. He was the needed. So they brought him out from prison, gave him immunity to come out to be with Pharaoh. He was the needed because he had a track record. So why am I telling you this? Have a track record in all that you do. It is what will make you the needed. This is the second lesson to learn from episode 41 in Genesis. The third lesson to learn is simple. execute your plan at the right time. Now, when Joseph told Pharaoh the meaning of the dream, the whole of Egypt was also told that this is what's going to happen. So everybody should stock up, everybody should store up. But Joseph was the only one who executed that plan. He stored up, built cities of food to store them up. So it's not enough to have a plan. It's not enough to know the plan. You must execute the plan at the right time. The moment the 7 years of plenty started, Joseph started stocking up. He was executing the plan at the right time. You know, there's a time for everything. You can do the right thing at the wrong time. And you can go and do the wrong thing at the right time. So there's a time for everything. You do the right thing at the right time. The 10th lesson to learn from Genesis 41 is this: execute your plan at the right time. That's what Joseph did. At the 7 years of plenty, he was stocking up, building food cities. He was executing the plan at the right time. And then soon enough, the 7 years of plenty finished. And then the 7 years of famine began. Are you getting this? Is this making sense? So these are the 3 lessons to learn from Genesis chapter 41. Number 1, God's timing is the best. Number 2, have a track record. It is what makes you the needed. And number 3, execute your plan at the right time. Now, let's get to Genesis chapter 42, right? Genesis chapter 42, where we'll continue this conversation. Genesis chapter 42. So when Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you standing around looking at one another? I've heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive. Otherwise, we will die." So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain. But Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them, for fear some harm might come to him. So Jacob's sons arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine in Canaan, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Since Joseph was governor of all of Egypt and in charge of selling grains to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where are you from?" he demanded. "From the land of Canaan," they replied. "We have come to buy food." Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him. And he remembered the dreams he had about them many years before. He said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "No, my lord," they exclaimed. "Your servants have simply come to buy food. We are all brothers, members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies." "Yes, you are," Joseph insisted. "You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "Sir," they said, "there are actually 12 of us. We, your servants, are all brothers, sons of a man living in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is back there with our father right now, and one of our brothers is no longer with us." But Joseph insisted, "As I said, you are spies. This is how I will test your story. I swear by the life of Pharaoh that you will never leave Egypt unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother. I will keep the rest of you here in prison. Then we will find out whether or not your story is true. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, then I will know you are spies." So Joseph put them in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "I am a God-fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to remain in prison. The rest of you may go home with grains for your starving families. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you are telling the truth and you will not die." To this they agreed. Speaking among themselves, they said clearly, "We are being punished because of what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish when he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. That's why we are in this trouble." "Didn't I tell you not to sin against that boy?" Reuben asked. "But you wouldn't listen, and now you have to answer for his blood." Of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them, for he had been speaking to them through an interpreter. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simon from among them and had him tied up right before their eyes. Joseph then ordered the servants to fill the men's sack with grain, but he also gave secret instruction to return each man's money at the top of the sack. He also gave them supplies for their journey home. So the brothers loaded the donkey with grain and headed for home. But when they stopped for the night and one of them opened his sack to get grain for his donkey, he found his money at the top of his sack. "Look," he exclaimed to his brothers, "my money has been returned. It's here in my sack." Then their hearts sank. Trembling, they said to each other, "What has God done to us?" When the brothers came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened. "The man who is governor of the land spoke very harshly to us," they told him. "He accused us of being spies, scouting the land. But we said we are honest men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of one father. Our brother is no longer with us, and the youngest is at home with our father in the land of Canaan." Then the man who is governor of the land told us, "This is how I will find out you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me and take grain for your starving families and go home. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. Then I will know you are honest men and not spies. And then I will give you back your brother, and you may trade freely in the land." As they emptied their sack, there in each man's sack was the bag of money he had paid for the grain. The brothers and their father was terrified when they saw the bags of money. Jacob exclaimed, "You are robbing me of my children. Joseph is gone. Simon is gone. And now you want to take Benjamin too? Everything is going against me." Then Reuben said to his father, "You may kill my two sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I will be responsible for him, and I promise to bring him back." But Jacob replied, "My son will not go down with you. His brother Joseph is dead, and he is all I have left. If anything should happen to him on your journey, you would send this grieving white-haired man to the grave." Now that is chapter 42 on Genesis. Now, one of the reasons why I love this chapter 42 is because it's a part of scripture that just begins to reveal Joseph's true nature, right? So I picked out 3 lessons that I want to share with you guys. Lesson number 1, they will come. Yes, they will come. You know, when people do not regard you, when people take you for granted, when people treat you anyhow at a certain stage in your life, when you have become all that God has designed you to become, those same people, they would come. They will still come back to you. I say this all the time, that all who live as friends will return back as fans. They will come, right? You just have to not give up and continue doing that which God has called you to do. They will eventually come. The same brothers who did not regard Joseph, they still came back to Egypt to buy food. Unknown to them, the man who's the governor in Egypt is Joseph. And they bowed down to him. They called him Lord. The same Joseph, they said, "Let us kill him and see what will become of his dream." The first lesson to learn from this is simple. They will come. Yes, they will come. It may take a while, because now Joseph had lived for 13 years in Egypt before he became prime minister. Yes, it will take a while. It won't happen overnight. But one thing I can assure you is that they will come. They will come back. Yes, they may not come back next year. They may not come back 2 years' time, but they will definitely come back. And they will not meet you where they left you. You would have attained greater heights, and you would have achieved your dreams. So they will come. They will come. They always come. They always come. So the first lesson to learn from chapter 42 of Genesis is that they will come. The second lesson to learn from Genesis chapter 42 is that dreams come through. Now the brothers could not recognize Joseph, but Joseph recognized them. And Joseph saw them bow down to him. The dream he had had come true. So dreams come true, right? So don't ever feel like, oh, your dream will never happen. No, dream come true. It may not happen the way you had envisaged it, but it will happen. Joseph had his brothers bow down to him. The same dream he told them about 13 years ago. Same dream. The same dream that they accused him for and said they were going to kill him for was the same dream that came to pass, that they bowed down before him and they called him Lord. Second lesson to learn from Genesis chapter 42 is simple. Dreams come true. And like I always tell people, no dream come alive while sleeping. You must wake up, right? Joseph was busy working. He was serving Potiphar, serving the prison warder, before now serving Pharaoh. He was serving. And in that place of service, his dream came true because even his brothers came to bow down before him. Second lesson to learn, dreams come true. And I often say this to people, if anyone truly believes in their dream, not even reality will stand in their way. I'll say that again. If anyone truly believes in their dream, not even reality will stand in the way. Joseph's dream had come through. So dream do come true. And the third lesson to learn from Genesis chapter 42 is this. People do change. Yes. If this is for any consolation, people do change. Joseph's brothers, they have changed. They have become more responsible. They become more honest with themselves. People do change. Yes. Now, how does this change happen? Either you will change on your own or time will change you. But people do change. Over time, Joseph's brother had changed. They are taking more responsibility. They are holding themselves more accountable. This wasn't what they were doing some years ago. So you can never outright write off anybody and feel like there's no hope. That's not possible. There's hope. People do change. Joseph's brothers had changed. Interestingly, they had changed. And like I always tell people, is that you let life change you or you change with life. But change must happen because people do change. See, either you change on your own or life will change you. But it's best that you change on your own and don't wait for life to change you. So Joseph's brothers, they changed on their own. They became more responsible. They became more accountable. They've changed. These were not the same people who sold Joseph into slavery. They've changed. So remember this. People do change. So these are the three lessons to learn from Genesis chapter 42, right? Number one, they will come. Number two, dreams do come true. And number three, people do change. Either they change on their own or life will change them. Are you getting this? This is making sense. Okay, so let's go to Genesis chapter 43, right? Let's make progress. Genesis chapter 43. Now, but the famine continued to ravage the land of Canaan. When the grain they had brought from Egypt was almost gone, Jacob said to his sons, "Go back and buy us a little more food." But Judah said, "The man was serious when he warned us. You won't see my face again unless your brother is with you. If you send Benjamin with us, we will go down and buy more food. But if you don't let Benjamin go, we won't go either." Remember, the man said, "You won't see my face again unless your brother is with you." "Why are you so cruel to me?" Jacob moaned. "Why did you tell him you had another brother?" The man kept asking us questions about our family. They replied, he asked us, "Is your father still alive? Do you have another brother?" So we answered his questions. How could we know he would say, "Bring your brother down here"? Judah said to his father, "Send the boy with me, and we'll be on our way. Otherwise, we will all die of starvation. And not only we, but you and our little ones. I personally guarantee his safety. You may hold me responsible if I do not bring him back to you. Then let me bear the blame forever. If we hadn't wasted all this time, we would have gone and returned twice by now." So their father Jacob finally said to them, If it can't be avoided, then at least do this. Pack your bags with the best products of this land. Take them down to the man as gifts: balm, honey, gum, aromatic resin, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Also, take double the money that was put in your sack, as it was probably someone's mistake. Take your brother and go back to the man. May God Almighty give you mercy as you go before the man, so that he would release Simon and let Benjamin return. But if it must, but if I must lose my children, so be it. Then, so the men packed Jacob's gift and doubled the money and headed off with Benjamin. They finally arrived in Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the manager of his household, "These men will eat with me this noon. Take them inside the palace. Then go slaughter an animal and prepare a big feast." So the man did as Joseph told him and took them into Joseph's palace. The brothers were terrified when they saw that they were being taken into Joseph's house. "See, because of the money someone put in our sack last time we were here," they said. "He plans to pretend that we stole it. Then he will seize us and make us slaves and take our donkey." The brothers approached the manager of Joseph's household and spoke to him at the entrance of the palace. "Sir," they said, "we came to Egypt once before to buy food. But as we were returning home, we stopped for the night and opened our sacks. Then we discovered that each man's money, the exact amount paid, was in the top of his sack. Here it is. We have brought it back with us. We also have additional money to buy more food. We have no idea who put our money in our sacks." "Relax. Don't be afraid," the household manager told him. "Your God, the God of your father, must have put this treasure into your sacks. I know I received your payment." Then he released Simon and brought him out to them. The manager then led the men into Joseph's palace. He gave them water to wash their feet and provided food for their donkeys. They were told they would be eating there, so they prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon. When Joseph came home, they gave him the gifts they had brought him, then bowed low to the ground before him. After greeting him, he asked, "How is your father, the old man you spoke about? Is he still alive?" "Yes," they replied, "our father, your servant, is alive and well." And they bowed low again. Then Joseph looked at his brother Benjamin, the son of his own mother. "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" Joseph asked. "May God be gracious to you, my son." Then Joseph hurried from the room because he was overcome with emotion for his brother. He went into his private room where he broke down and wept. After washing his face, he came back out, keeping himself under control. Then he ordered, "Bring out the food." The waiter served Joseph at his own table, and his brothers were served at a separate table. The Egyptians who ate with Joseph sat at their own table, because Egyptians despised Hebrews and refused to eat with them. Joseph told each of his brothers where to sit, and to their amazement, he seated them according to age, from the oldest to the youngest. And Joseph filled their plates with food from his own table, giving Benjamin 5 times as much as he gave the others. So they feasted and drank freely with him. Now, this is Genesis chapter 43, right? Genesis chapter 43. Now, Joseph is still disguising his personality and still trying to test out his brothers to actually see if they have become better persons over time, right? But there are 3 lessons to learn from Genesis chapter 43, right? The first one is this: pressure can affect your resolve. You see, Jacob had said he was never going to let Benjamin go to Egypt because he had lost Joseph, so he didn't want to lose Benjamin also. But with the pressure of them facing starvation, he had to change that resolve and allow Benjamin to go with the brothers. So in life, sometimes when you are under pressure, the resolve that you have may be affected. Literally. So you say, "Oh, I will never do XYZ again." But when you come under some certain pressure, you find yourself doing XYZ. Because pressure can affect your resolve. You know, Paul says in Romans chapter 7 when he was complaining towards the end, he said, the things that I would not do, I find myself doing this. O wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this? Right? Pressure can affect your resolve. Jacob has said, no, he will never let Benjamin out of his sight because of what had happened to Joseph. But with the pressure of starvation looming, he had to say, take Benjamin and go and get us food, since the governor will only attend to you if he sees Benjamin. So lesson number 1 from Genesis chapter 43 is that pressure can affect your resolve. Second lesson to learn in Genesis chapter 43 is that people really do change for the better. You could see Judah telling his father, hold me responsible. I will take Benjamin and I will bring him back. People do change, right? These were people who, before now, would not say anything like this. These were people who killed Joseph, who sold Joseph, I beg your pardon, who sold Joseph, and they killed a lamb, sprinkled the blood on Joseph's clothes, went to tell their father that this was Joseph's clothes, that Joseph has been devoured by a wild beast. But these people, they have changed now, and they were holding themselves more accountable. People do really change for better. Yes. Never write off anyone and say, oh, that person can never change. That person will always remain like that. Not true. People do change for better. Joseph's brothers actually did change. They were willing to stake their own life at this point. They have changed. These were not the same people who sold Joseph 13 years ago. They've changed. That's to let you know that don't give up on people. Don't write people off. Don't say people can never change. That's not true. Because people do really change for better. And I'm not just saying they change and change for worse, they change for better. Joseph's brothers became more accountable, more responsible. 13 years ago, we were not like that. So people do really change for the better. And the third lesson to learn from Genesis chapter 43 is that forgiveness is a choice. Right? Joseph made a choice that he had forgiven his brothers. He hadn't revealed it to them yet, but he had already forgiven them. That's why he even said, oh, let them come and eat in my palace. Give them water to wash their feet, fed their camels and donkeys, and made them feel comfortable to eat and drink with him. He had forgiven them before he even mentioned it to them. Forgiveness is a choice. Several times the brothers had come and bowed before him and called him Lord. But he was really not about all of those things because he had forgiven them, because forgiveness is a choice. He had forgiven them. So when he saw Benjamin, he broke down. He had forgiven them, but he just had not revealed it to them yet, but he had forgiven them. So that lets us know that forgiveness happens in two phases. First, you forgive people first within, and then you let them also know you've forgiven them. Are you getting this? It happens in two phases. First, you forgive them to yourself, and then you let them know that you have actually forgiven them. Because they may still be carrying the guilt of what they did to you. But when you let them know that you have forgiven them, it helps reduce the weight of the guilt. Are you getting this? So forgiveness first is a choice you make, and there is also a statement that you voice. You let it out. You let them know that they have been forgiven. Are you getting this? Now, let's go to Genesis chapter 44. Right? Genesis chapter 44. Let's make progress. So when his brothers were ready to leave, Joseph gave this instruction to the palace manager. Fill each of their sacks with as much grain as they can carry, and put each man's money back into his sack. Then put my personal silver cup at the top of the youngest brother's sack, along with the money for his grain. So the manager did as Joseph instructed. The brothers were up at dawn and were sent on their journey with their loaded donkeys. But when they had gone only a short distance and were barely out of the city, Joseph said to his palace manager, chase after them and stop them. When you catch up with them, ask them, why have you repaid my kindness with such evil? Why have you stolen my master's silver cup, which he uses to predict the future? What a wicked thing you have done. When the manager caught up with the men, he spoke to them as he had been instructed. What are you talking about? The brothers responded. We are your servants and will never do such a thing. Didn't we return the money we found in our sacks? We brought it back all the way from the land of Canaan. Why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If you find this cup with any one of us, let that man die, and all the rest of us, my lord, will be your slaves. That's fair, the man replied. But only the one who stole the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go free. They all quickly took their sack from the backs of their donkeys and opened them. The palace manager searched the brothers' sacks from the oldest to the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. When the brothers saw this, they tore their clothing in despair. Then they loaded their donkeys again and returned to the city. Joseph was still in the palace when Judah and his brothers arrived, and they fell to the ground before him. What have you done? Joseph demanded. Don't you know that a man like me can predict the future? Judah answered, Oh, my lord, what can we say to you? How can we explain this? How can we prove our innocence? God is punishing us for our sins. My lord, we have all returned to be your slaves, all of us, not just our brother who had the cup in his sack. No, Joseph said, I will never do such a thing. Only the man who stole the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go back to your father's house in peace. Then Judah stepped forward and said, Please, my lord, let your servant say one word to you. Please do not be angry, even though you are as powerful as Pharaoh himself. My lord, previously you asked us, your servant, do you have a father or a brother? And we responded, Yes, my lord. We have a father who is an old man, and his youngest son is a child of his old age. His full brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him very much. And you said to us, Bring him here so I can see him with my own eyes. But we said to you, My lord, the boy cannot leave his father, for his father would die. But you told us, Unless your youngest brother come with you, you will never see my face again. So we returned to your servant, our father, and told him what you had said. Later, when he said, Go back again and buy us more food, we replied, We can't go unless you let our youngest brother go with us. We will never get to see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Then my father said to us, As you know, my wife had 2 sons. One of them went away and never returned. Doubtless, he was torn to pieces by some wild animal. I have never seen him since. Now, if you take his brother away from me, and any harm comes to him, you will send this grieving white-haired man to his grave. And now, my lord, I cannot go back to my father without this boy. Our father's life is bound up in the boy's life. If he sees that the boy is not with us, our father will die. We, your servants, will indeed be responsible for sending that grieving white-haired man to his grave. My lord, I guaranteed to my father that I would take care of the boy. I told him, if I don't bring him back to you, I will bear the blame forever. So please, my lord, let me stay here as a slave instead of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. For how can I return to my father if the boy is not with me? I cannot bear to see the anguish this will cause my father. This is Genesis chapter 44. Now, you could see interestingly that a lot has changed with Joseph's brothers. A lot has changed. A lot. These were people who really did not give a care before. Suddenly, they care. Suddenly, they pay attention. Suddenly, they are more responsible. Suddenly, they are holding themselves accountable. This is worth beholding. But there are 3 lessons that I still want to share with us on Genesis chapter 44. Number 1, test people resolve. Every time Joseph would put their money back in their sack, he was testing their resolve to see, are they going to keep it or they are going to return it? He was testing their resolve. See, especially people who have treated you in a certain way before now, it's okay to test their resolve if they have actually changed. It's okay. But that's what Joseph was doing. Whenever they come to buy food, he will sell to them, but put their money back into their bags. And then when they discover it, they will come back and say, oh, this is what we found. The brothers of before will keep the money. So lesson number 1, test people's resolve. Test to see how truly they have changed. Test the resolve. Test it. Second lesson to learn from this is that be careful what you negotiate out of confidence. The brothers were saying, if you find the cup in any of our sack, that person should be killed. Be careful how you negotiate with overconfidence. They were certain that they did not take anything. But the truth is, you can never outsmart the person who wants to outsmart you. Right? They didn't plan to do any of those things to the governor, but the governor had plans for them. So be careful when you negotiate out of overconfidence. The brother said, anyone you find the cup in their sack, that person should be killed. That's overconfidence. You simply forgot that you can never outsmart the person who wants to outsmart you. Can never. So the second lesson, be careful of what you negotiate out of overconfidence. And I can tell people, you can be sincerely wrong. Sincerity is not a factor of truth. You can be sincerely wrong. Are you getting this? Third lesson to learn, taking responsibility is part of maturity. Judas spoke up, willing to take responsibility. See, you have no idea how much you have matured until you start to take responsibility. That's the truth. The indicator of maturity is responsibility. Judas spoke up. Judas was not the eldest, but Judas spoke up and said to the governor, have me instead. Let the boy go back to my father. Have me instead. He was taking responsibility. So 3 lessons to learn from chapter 44 of Genesis. Number 1, test people's resolve. Number 2, be careful how you negotiate out of overconfidence. And number 3, taking responsibility is the proof of maturity. So let's go to the last chapter for episode 9, which is Genesis chapter 45. Now, Joseph could not stand it any longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, out, all of you. So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. Please come closer, he said to them. So they came closer, and he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourself for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and preserve many survivors. It was God who sent me here, not you. And he's the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace and the governor of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me master over all the land of Egypt. So come down immediately. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me with all your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you there, for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, you and your household and all your animals will starve. Then Joseph added, look, you can see for yourself. And so can my brother Benjamin that I am really Joseph. That I really am Joseph. Go tell my father of my honored position here in Egypt. Describe to him everything you have seen, and then bring my father here quickly. Weeping with joy, they embraced Joseph. And Benjamin did the same. Then Joseph kissed each one of his brothers and wept over them. And after that, they began talking with him freely. The news soon reached Pharaoh's palace. Joseph's brothers have arrived. Pharaoh and his officials were all delighted to hear this. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, this is what you must do. Load your pack animals and hurry back to the land of Canaan. Then get your father and all of your families and return here to me. I will give you the very best land in Egypt, and you will eat from the best that the land produces." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, take wagons from the land of Egypt to carry your little children and your wives and bring your father here. Don't worry about your personal belongings, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours." So the sons of Jacob did as they were told. Joseph provided them with wagons, as Pharaoh had commanded, and gave them supplies for the journey, and gave each of them new clothes. But to Benjamin he gave 5 changes of clothes and 300 pieces of silver. He also sent his father 10 male donkeys loaded with the finest products of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other supplies he would need on his journey. So Joseph sent his brothers off, and as they left, he called after them, Don't quarrel about all this along the way." And they left Egypt and returned to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. "Joseph is still alive," they told him, "and he is the governor of all the land of Egypt." Jacob was stunned at the news. He couldn't believe it. But when they repeated to Jacob everything Joseph had told them, and when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent to carry him, their father's spirit revived. Then Jacob exclaimed, "It must be true. My son Joseph is alive. I must go and see him before I die." Now that is Genesis chapter 45. Now, the interesting thing about Genesis chapter 45 is very funny, right? First lesson, perspective is important. You see, with all that has happened, Joseph had a different perspective. He told the brothers that you were not the one who sent me to Egypt. Even though you sold me to slavery, it was God who sent me ahead to preserve your lives. That was perspective. Trust me, perspective is everything. The only thing different with Joseph and his brothers right now is that Joseph had a different perspective of everything they did to him. So he didn't see it as they did him evil. He saw it from the perspective of God sent me ahead of you guys. God used you guys to sell me, to send me here. Perspective. And this is a very important lesson. Perspective is important. It doesn't matter what you're going through, perspective is important. Joseph had the right perspective towards his brothers, towards what they did to him. He sold him to slavery. He became a slave in Potiphar's house. Then from Potiphar's house, he went to prison. And for prison, he was there and then forgotten after 2 years when he told the butler to remember him. But Joseph had the right perspective towards all that happened to him. This is why I tell you that perspective is important. It doesn't matter what you face, it doesn't matter what you go through, perspective is important. And then, the second lesson to learn from Genesis chapter 45 is this: never give up on family. Yes, family will mess up, family will betray you, family will do you dirty, but never give up on family. Joseph did not give up on family. He did not. And you know, I think that was one thing that was unique about Joseph. He still loved his family. He still loved his brothers. He still loved his father. He never gave up on family. Even though family gave up on him, he never gave up on family. So yes, family may not rate you. Family may do you dirty, but never give up on family. Literally, do not give up on family. Joseph did not give up on family. And then the third lesson to learn from Genesis chapter 45 is this: evidence inspires belief. When the brothers told Jacob that Joseph is still alive, he couldn't believe it. But when he saw the wagons, he saw the gifts that Joseph sent to him, his spirit revived. See this: evidence will always inspire belief. People may doubt, but when they see evidence, it's difficult for them to doubt. Even Thomas, when he saw Jesus, he said, let me put my hands through. Evidence, they say, terminate arguments. But what I'd like to let you know this, that evidence inspires belief. The moment Jacob saw the wagons, his spirit was revived. He said, of a truth, my son Joseph is alive, and I must go to see him. Are you getting this? So these are the 3 lessons to learn from Genesis chapter 45. Number 1, perspective is important. Number 2, never give up on family. And number 3, evidence inspires belief. So guys, this is it. This is episode 9 on the series Genesis. And on episode 9, we've been able to take chapter 41 to chapter 45. And next week, first week of March, we'll be taking the season finale of the series Genesis. We're going to be taking chapter 46 to chapter 50, and that is where we'll call it a day on this series Genesis. I hope you have learned something today. I hope that you'll be able to go back and look at this again and see the things that you can practice from this, because trust me, these are things that you can practice in your own life and in your own journey. Like we always say, feel free to share the link with your friends, your families, your loved ones, and your enemies so that they can like, subscribe, and turn on post notification so that you don't get to miss out when we get to have conversations like this. And like we always say, there's always more on the upgrade side of life. And that's why we encourage you that you leave good behind so that you can upgrade. So thank you so much for watching. God bless you.